Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Talk with Antonio. I am your host, Antonio. And one moment. Pardon me, I just sneezed right now. It's just like this damn dust. 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that. And today's episode will be about last week I was supposed to record, but life got into the way and I've been busy, and also something happened. I will comment on that later on towards the end of the episode. Well, last week it was the verdict that everyone was expecting. Well, first of all, before I talk about this, I just want to say that this podcast, even though it's a variety, I talk about other things like politics, wrestling, certain things that happen around, especially with the documentaries that I've talked about in the past. Excuse me. This podcast, I'm just giving my point of view. I'm not implying. I mean, I'm not inclined towards the left or the right. I'm just saying my opinion and say what I feel about what's going on right now with this guy. Well, last week Donald Trump was guilty of 34 counts towards the hush money that he paid Stormy Daniels. And you know, it's funny with this guy that every fucking time that there's something against him, he says, I don't know her, or that's fake news, that everything's a hoax, that the favorite word I've noticed with this guy, that all he ever that comes out of his mouth is rigged. Like every time he does a news conference, he's always saying that the election, the 2020 election was rigged. Everything is rigged. Everything is rigged. But when it happens, if it's something with the Democrats, it's not rigged. But if it's something with the Republicans or this guy, they all say the same. They always spew the same words that this guy says, rigged. And right now, he was convicted with 34 charges, and all of them guilty. And I remember that when he came out of the court, he had a few words. And this is a courtesy of ABC News special report. It says here, former President Trump found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in his New York hush money trial. And this is courtesy of ABC News special report. And you're going to hear this guy talk.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt.
Okay, the first fucking word that comes out of his mouth is rigged, and he has the audacity to say corrupt. If you want to talk about corrupt, this guy should look at himself in the mirror, basically.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very...
Ugh, you didn't do a thing wrong. Motherfucker, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now.
Okay, what does this have to do right now? This is not about immigrants crossing the border, supposedly. This is about you, dude. You never want to take responsibility for any of the actions, mind you. All the time he says, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. If something comes out with it, it's fake news, it's a hoax. Like, for example, let's go back to 4 years ago, 2020, when when COVID or the coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, was hitting this country first. And he says that everything was under control. The whole thing that was being reported was all a hoax. Give me a break. He never wants to accept responsibility. You know what he is, people? Trump, to me, comes off as a dickless coward because he never wants to accept responsibility for any of his actions. For once, Trump, just be a fucking man and say, yes, this happened. But every time he says no, oh, it's a disgrace, it's a corrupt, man, shut the fuck up.
From prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fight for our Constitution. He wants to turn this country into a fascist state. Because he said in an interview not too long ago that he wants to fire all the generals in the Pentagon and replace them with yes men, all loyal yes men to him. That says a lot, you know. But yeah, this is what he got out of the court. You could tell that he was fucking pissed off. He was like red as a tomato, with like that sourpuss look on his face. And the following day, and you know, after the verdict happened, all of his fucking cronies, Tommy Tuberville, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and this Lauren Boebert, and especially, oh my God, every time this lady, or how they call her in Twitter, cunt, every time she fucking opens her mouth, all she ever does is spew like stupidity, all these fucking conspiracy theories. I don't understand how in the fucking hell that this country, that a person who spews conspiracy theories is in Congress, and I'm talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And if that idiot is in Congress, I mean, anybody could go into Congress. I mean, she's a dumbass. She's super illiterate. She can't even say Gestapo, Gazpacho. That's how stupid she is. And right now, and this is the news conference the following day, and let's just listen to this guy first of all.
Thank you very much, everybody. This is
You can tell that he's agitated. He's pissed off because he was probably having a temper tantrum when he was talking about this and thinking about this. And you can tell he was writing notes, but the teleprompter, I don't know, like, just listen to the stupidity that this guy, that spews that shithole he calls a mouth. Let's listen to this, people.
a case where if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. And these are bad people. These are, in many cases, I believe, sick people. When you look at our country, what's happening where millions and millions of people are flowing in from all parts of the world, not just South America, from Africa, from Asia, from the Middle East, and they're coming in from jails and prisons, and they're coming in from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're coming in from all over the world into our country. And we have a president and a group of fascists that don't want to do anything about it because they could right now, today, he could stop it.
He talks about fascists. The MAGA Republican Party, who controls the House of Representatives, are all fascist because they take, like, for example, when it comes to the border crawl, like the border program, every time that they want to vote for it, they all voted against it. And they say that President Biden doesn't do anything, but every time they want to put something, they always say no because Trump told us to do is to say no. They're like being good little soldiers or being little puppets of this guy right here. So,
but he's not. They're destroying our country. Our country is in very bad shape, and they're very much against me saying these things. They want to raise your taxes by 4 times. They want to stop you from having cars.
Okay, where the fuck did he got that shit from? what a stupid man. Oh my God. Let's just keep hearing this guy.
With their ridiculous mandates that make it impossible for you to get a car or afford a car, but make it very possible for China to build all of our cars. It's a very serious problem that we have. We just went through one of many experiences where we had a conflicted judge, highly conflicted. There's never been a more conflicted judge. Now, I'm under a gag order, which nobody's ever been under. No president.
And you know why this guy was on a gag order? Because all he ever did was go on Truth Social and spew all this venom. And that judge told him right now, I know he's going to complain about the fines and all that stuff, but that's what he gets. The judge told him, do not say anything, but he doesn't like to be told what to do. Because if they do tell him what to do, it'll hurt his overinflated ego. He acts like a complete baby when stuff doesn't go right according to this thing, you know.
Presidential candidate's ever been under a gag order before. I'm under a gag order, nasty gag order, where I've had to pay thousands of dollars in penalties and fines, and was threatened with jail. Think of it. I'm the leading candidate. I'm leading Biden by a lot, and I'm leading
jail. It's because they threatened him with jail because he needed to shut the fuck up. And he didn't. For once, he just needs to shut his pie hole, you know?
The Republicans to the point where that's over. So I'm the leading person for president, and I'm under a gag order by a man that can't put two sentences together, given by a court.
This guy says the judge can't put two sentences together. This fucker can't even spell or anything right. Why don't you go co-FF elsewhere, you know? This guy can't even spell right. He talk about being another illiterate dumbass.
And they are in total conjunction with the White House and the DOJ, just so you understand. This is all done by Biden and his people. Maybe his people more importantly. I don't know if Biden knows too much about it, because I don't know if he knows about anything. But he's nevertheless the president, so we have to use his name. And this is done by Washington, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. So we have a judge who's highly conflicted. You know what the confliction is. Nobody wants to write about it, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. If I do, he said, I get put in jail. So we'll play that game a little bit longer. We won't talk about it, but you're allowed to talk about it. I hope you do, because there's never been anybody so conflicted as this. As far as the trial itself, it was very unfair. We weren't allowed to use our election expert under any circumstances. You saw what happened to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil. He looks so nice.
He said devil. This guy should look himself in the mirror when he says that.
And soft. People say, oh, he seems like such a nice man. No, unless you saw him in action. And you saw that with a certain witness that went through hell. And when we wanted to do things, he wouldn't let us do those things. But when the government wanted something, they got everything. They got everything they wanted.
Man, this guy, all he says is bitching and bitching. But this guy gets away with everything. No one says a damn thing about it, you know?
It was a rigged trial.
Oh, God, here we go again with rigged this, rigged that. This guy, like, oh, God, that's like this. I'll bet dollars to donuts, people, that when this guy wakes up and he says, oh, the rigged this, my breakfast has been rigged, my coffee has been rigged, my Diet Coke has been rigged. Everything is rigged to this dude, man. I swear to bejesus.
Wanted a venue change where we could have a fair trial. We didn't get it. We wanted a judge change. We wanted a judge that wasn't conflicted. And obviously he didn't do that.
Nothing goes your way. Well, tough shit, dude. Welcome to the real world.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We had a DA who was a failed DA, crime is rampant in New York, violent crime. That's what he's really supposed.
There's crime everywhere. It's not just in major cities like New York City or Los Angeles. There's crime everywhere. It's just like people always want to focus, oh, I don't live in this city because there's crime. There's high crime and all this stuff. There's crime everywhere, especially in small towns, but we can't even get this this dude to understand, especially this thick-ass skull that he has.
Supposed to be looking at. Crime is rampant in New York. Yesterday in McDonald's, you had a man hitting him up with machetes, a machete. Whoever.
What does it say? Machete. You're supposed to say only once with a machete. Learn how to talk.
Can imagine even a machete being wielded in a store, in a place where they're eating, and he's going rampant. And Bragg is down watching a trial on what they call crimes. They're falsifying business records. That sounds so bad. To me, it sounds very bad. You know, it's only a misdemeanor.
You can tell that when he's saying all this, he's making shit up on the spot right there. Just like with that, I've seen videos on YouTube with that lady who died. What's her name? Kirsten Weldon, and she could say that when he was saying stuff, she was looking up. She was just making shit up on the spot right there, and that's what Trump is exactly doing right there on that news conference.
But to me, it sounds so bad when they say falsifying business. That's a bad thing for me. I've never had that before. I'm falsifying. You know what falsifying business records is? In the first degree. They say falsifying business records. Sounds so good, right? It means that legal expense. I paid a lawyer, totally legal. I paid a lawyer a legal expense. And a bookkeeper, without any knowledge from me, correctly marked it down in the books. A very professional woman, highly respected. She testified. Marked it down in the books as a legal expense. So a legal expense, paid a lawyer, is a legal expense in the books. It's not sheetrock, construction, or any other thing. It's a legal expense. Think of that. This is what the falsification of business records were. And I said, what else are you going to call it? What else are you going to call it? Now, I would have testified. I wanted to testify.
Okay. That right there is a fucking lie. He said that he wanted to testify. They told him and he didn't want to. He's a fucking liar right there. He's just lying right on the spot right there, people.
The theory is you never testify because as soon as you testify, anybody, if it were George Washington, don't testify because they'll get you on something that you said slightly wrong and then they sue you for perjury. But I didn't care about that. I wanted to. But the judge allowed them to go into everything that I was ever involved in, not this case, everything that I was ever involved in, which is a first. In other words, you could go into every single thing that I ever did. Was he a bad boy here? Was he a bad boy there? And my lawyer said, what do you need to go through? And all you wanted to do is testify simply on this case.
Are you like 5 years old? Are you a little kid for saying that? Man.
Because I would have loved to have testified. To this day, I would have liked to have testified.
No. You didn't want to. You're a liar.
But you would have said something out of whack, like it was a beautiful sunny day and it was actually raining out. And I very much appreciate the big crowd of people outside. That's incredible what's happening. The level of support has been incredible. So
only like the hardcore Kool-Aid drinking MAGAs.
The whole thing is legal expense was marked down as legal expense. Think of it. This is the crime that I committed that I'm supposed to go to jail for 187 years for. When you have violent crime all over this city at levels that nobody's ever seen before, where you have businesses leaving, and businesses are leaving because of this, because heads of businesses say, man, we don't want to get involved with that. I could go through the books of any business person in this city, and I could find things that in theory, I guess, let's indict him, let's destroy his life. But I'm out there, and I don't mind being out there because I'm doing something for this country, and I'm doing something for our Constitution. It's very important, far beyond me. And this can't be allowed to happen to other presidents. It should never be allowed to happen in the future.
Okay. He says that they shouldn't allow it to do it to other presidents. Okay, let's go back in time. Let's go back to 1998. At the beginning of 1998, in January, I was 14 years old around that time. But now that I'm older and I realize what happened was the beginning of the Monica Lewinsky scandal involving President Clinton and Monica Lewinsky when he got involved with her. And all the fucking Republicans, there were some who voted not guilty. There were some who voted one not guilty and the other one guilty. But the majority of the Republicans wanted to impeach President Clinton. And one of them is that fucking little weasel that goes by the biggest Trump ass kiss by the name of Lindsey Graham. And he was the one who led the charge, or was leading the charge. And they all knew back then that that was not an impeachable offense, what President Clinton did. And you know, it's funny how they say that President Clinton lied for abuse of power. And this guy, when he was president, at the so-called president at that time, he did worse. He did more of abuse of power. But what did Republicans do? They acquitted the guy. But yet somehow they wanted to impeach and kick out President Clinton for something very minor. Hell, I can't believe I'm saying this. Trump at that time, he did an interview with Wolf Blitzer, and he was at that time I don't know what the fuck happened to this guy. He was praising Nancy Pelosi, and the one thing that I never thought I'd say this. I would agree with the guy is that President at that time, this is the guy that I fucking hate also. President Bush should have been. They should have filed crimes against humanity because he lied with the war in Iraq, and he even mentioned that about President Clinton that they wanted to impeach him for something totally ridiculous. You know, but hey, that's just me though. Let's keep hearing what this dude has to say.
But this is far beyond me. This is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than my presidency. And the people understand it because I just see a poll just came out, the Daily Mail. That was the first one, came out, was done last night right after the verdict, where I'm up 6 points. 6 points from what we already were. We were leading fairly substantially. We're up 6 points in the Daily Mail poll. Now, maybe other polls come out and says something differently. But a lot of people have predicted it because the public understands and they understand what's going on. This is a scam. There's a rigged trial.
Here we go again. Rigged scam.
It shouldn't have been in that venue. We shouldn't have had that judge. He should have allowed us to have an election expert. We had the best expert.
Election expert in what? This has nothing to do with the election. It has something to do with you doing something off, like something different. It had nothing to do with the election.
Most respected expert, head of the Federal Elections Commission. He was all set to testify. He was waiting for 2 days. And when it was his turn, Bragg's people protested. And the judge knocked him out.
Do you have evidence for that? Or are you just making shit up on the spot?
Said you can't testify. He actually said you can't testify for anything having to do with the trial. You can say what the federal elections is. Well, that doesn't help. Everybody knows that. But you can't testify. So essentially, he wasn't able to testify. Other people weren't able to testify. But with these people, they were able to use people salacious. By the way, and nothing ever happened. There was no anything. Nothing ever happened, and they know it. But they were as salacious as they could be, and it had nothing. And do you notice the timing? The timing was perfect. this case was dead. It was dropped by every agency, every governmental board. It was dropped by the highly respected Southern District. They said, no, there's no case here. It was dropped by federal election, and that's what it's about. This is about a federal election, not a state election. You're not even allowed to look at it. They took the state and the city, and they went into a federal election. They're not allowed. The people from federal election, Southern District, and Washington dropped the case. Everybody dropped the case. There was no case. Cy Vance dropped the case. And when Bragg came in, he said, this is the most ridiculous case I've ever seen. And who would have a certain person, again, gag order, who would have a certain person like this ever testify? He said, this is essentially one of the worst people I've ever seen ever to testify.
I swear, this guy is just like rambling and rambling and rambling. I'm like, Jesus Christ, on a taxi cab. I mean, it's just like now it's just like borderline comedy right now, just listening to this guy.
He said, the craziest case I've ever seen. This is Bragg. Then when I announced I was running for president, long time later, they decided to revive this case. And they got a judge, Judge Marchand, who was responsible for another case that was also brought. It destroyed the life of a very good man, by the way. Destroyed the life of a very good man who went to prison once, and then they just put him in prison again because they said he lied. He didn't lie. I looked at the statements he made. In fact, he didn't remember something, and they put him in jail again. They destroyed him. Yeah. With me for many years. He was an honorable person. He was an honest man. And if you look at what he did, supposedly, it never happened. There's never been anything like this. Over the education of his grandchildren. He didn't report that he had a car or two cars on his income. I don't.
Literally, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Really? Like I said, this is like borderline comedy right now. Just listen to this guy just rambling and rambling and rambling. All this nonsense that he's spewing.
I don't know. I wonder how many people here have cars. I wonder how many people said, oh, gee, I have a car that's worth X dollars. How do you even figure it? And I guess you do have to report it, but I would say probably almost nobody does. Nobody even thinks about it. They put this man, they destroyed this man, but they put him in jail again because they didn't want him to testify. They didn't want him to testify. That's why he went to jail. They put him in jail twice. He's 77 years old. Now, normally I'd say that's an old guy, but I don't feel 77.
Oh, you don't feel 77. You look like you're fucking more older right now, dude. Let's see what this guy says afterwards.
Nobody ever says that about me. I'd like him to say, gee, we have to have a little sorrow for this man. Because they just don't say that about me, but maybe I'm better off that way. I think I'm probably better off that way. But they put him in jail twice. And you have to see what they put him in jail. And he was threatened by the judge. This man was told you're going to get 15 years in jail if you don't give up Trump. And he was told that. You're going to get 15 years in jail. And he made a plea deal because he didn't want to spend the rest of his life. And he was told that viciously. We're living in a fascist state.
Like, I don't know. I don't get it when these people say fascist state. President Biden hasn't done anything like now that's supposedly fascist. This guy wants to be. He admires all these other dictators, especially when he admires Kim Jong Un. He says that how, especially the president of China, I believe, President Xi. Like he has like this admiration for all these dictators, and he talks about fascism, but he wants to turn this country to a fascist country.
He was told that viciously. So you can go to jail for 4 months, 5 months, or you can get 15 years in jail. So do a plea. Almost who wouldn't do that plea? Everyone does those pleas. It's a horrible thing. There's a whole group of lawyers that fight that. It's so unfair. It's so unfair. But they destroyed his life. So many other things. You look at Southern District didn't want to bring the case. Nobody wanted to bring the case. And then you know who didn't want to bring the case? Most of all is Bragg. Bragg didn't want to bring it. But then he brought it. And they tried to make it a different case. They didn't say legal expense equal legal expense. Again, if I wrote down and paid a lawyer, and by the way, this was a highly qualified lawyer. Now, I'm not allowed to use his name because of the gag order. But, you know, he's a sleazebag. Everybody knows that. Took me a while to find out.
Sleazebag, and you're a scumbag. The biggest scumbag of all time.
But he was effective. He did work. But he wasn't a fixer. He was a lawyer. You know, they like to use the word fixer. He wasn't a fixer. He was a lawyer. At the time, he was a fully accredited lawyer. Now, he got into trouble not because of me. He got into trouble because he made outside deals, and he had something to do with taxi cabs and medallions, and he borrowed money. And that's why he went. And then he pled to three election violations. And as soon as I saw that, I said, I wonder why he did that. He pled. He took a deal. Now, he took a deal because he wanted to get off. In other words, I'll take a plea deal and I want to get off. And he wanted to make a deal with the Southern District. And they wrote the worst report I think I've ever seen on any human being, other than the report that was written on James Comey by the Inspector General, a very great Inspector General, actually. Wrote a report that was so bad. This one was possibly worse. The Southern District, the judge didn't let us use it. He said, it's hearsay. I said, it's not hearsay. Wouldn't let us use it. This is about the man. But he got in trouble for a very simple reason, because he was involved with borrowing a lot of money, and he did something with the banks. I don't know if it's defrauded the banks, but something happened.
Borderline comedy.
You guys know what it is. And then in addition to that, he gave up on three things where he wasn't guilty. In fact, they were going to testify in that. The head of the FEC, the Brad Smith, the election expert, number one
rated. He's just making shit up right now when he's talking.
In the country, was going to testify. He took a plea on three things. He just added them in because that gave him more bargaining power with respect to me. But the three things that he pled on, having to do with the election and having to do essentially a little bit with me, they weren't crimes. They weren't crimes. Nor is paying money under an NDA. So we have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. It's a big deal, a non-disclosure agreement. Totally honorable, totally good, totally accepted. Everybody has them. Every company has non-disclosure agreements. But the press called it slush fund and all sorts of other things.
No, sorry about that. It's just buffering right now, people. But this is like all the things that he's saying, like it has nothing to do with anything with the courts or anything right now. It's just he's just making shit up on the spot right there. So, let me see what the fuck happened right here. Let me see. Yeah, give me 1 second, people. Just stop. It was just buffering right now. Just stop right now. Give me 1 second.
Paying money under an NDA. So we have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. It's a big deal, a non-disclosure agreement. Totally honorable, totally good, totally accepted. Everybody has them. Every company has non-disclosure agreements. But the press called it slush fund and all sorts of other things. Hush money, hush money. It's not hush money. It's called a non-disclosure agreement. And most of the people in this room have a non-disclosure agreement with their company. It's a disgrace. So it's not hush money. It's a non-disclosure agreement, totally legal, totally common. Everyone has it. And what happened is he signed a non-disclosure agreement with this person, I guess other people, but it's totally honest. You're allowed to make the payment. You don't have to make it. You can make it any way you want. It's a non-disclosure agreement. And he signed that. And there was nothing wrong with signing it. And this should have been a non-case. And everybody said it was a non-case, including Bragg. Bragg said, until I ran for office. And then they saw the polls. I was leading the Republicans. I was leading the Democrats. I was leading everybody. And all of a sudden...
Man, this guy is fucking delusional. He says he leads everybody. And I remember when they posted this recording that he did to... I think it was in December of 2020 towards Raffensperger, I believe his name was the one of the workers from the state of Georgia, I believe. He told Brad to go find 11,000 votes and everything like that. And that's criminal behavior right there. So, but since it's Trump, everything is allowed.
They brought it back. It's a very sad thing that's happening in our country. And it's a thing that I'm honored. In a way, I'm honored. It's not that it's pleasant. It's very bad for family. It's very bad for friends and businesses. But I'm honored to be involved in it because somebody has to do it. And I might as well keep going and be the one. But I'm very honored to be involved because we're fighting for our Constitution.
No, you're not.
The money that was paid legally. There was nothing illegal. In fact, the lawyer in creating the NDA, because at that time he was a fully accredited lawyer. He wasn't a fixer. I never thought of him as a fixer. The media called him a fixer, or the prosecutors called him a fixer. He was a lawyer, and he was fairly good. Later on, I didn't like what he did. I didn't like, for instance, I didn't like that when I became president, he went around and made deals with companies. When I heard that, he was gone. He was gone. And
well, you know what? I've had enough listening to this guy. Like, all he does is just ramble and ramble and ramble. I'm just going to shut him up.
There was nothing wrong. This was standard stuff.
Okay, that's enough. I've had enough just listening to this guy. And you know, right now, the funny thing is that right now, Trump is so desperate right now that him and his GOP allies have urged the United States the Supreme Court to act after the guilty verdict. It says here, okay, this is by Andrew Weissman, former top prosecutor at the Justice Department, Tim Heaphy, former lead investigator for the January 6th Select Committee, and Claire McCaskill, former senator from Missouri, joined Nicole Wallace on Deadline House with reaction of how Trump and his allies are coping as reality has set, and that the ex-president has been found guilty of 34 felony counts and facing the real possibility of jail time as he continues to show any remorse ahead of sentencing. Okay. This guy already submitted to the Supreme Court about, he talks about immunity, that he should be immune. Okay, if that's the case, then President Biden should be immune of making other executive orders. Then that's going to backfire on this guy and the MAGA base that's in Congress right now. And there has been other reports that this is by Forbes. It says here, post-Trump conviction polls show warning signs. Most independents think Trump should drop out. It says here that more than half of independent voters want former President Trump to drop his 2024 campaign after a New York jury found him guilty in all 34 counts of falsifying business records in his criminal hush money case. According to a poll released Sunday, the latest poll conviction survey to show a slew of warning signs for the Republican candidate. It says here that some independents, 52% of them said Trump should drop out after the conviction, compared to 67% of the so-called double haters, voters opposed to Trump and President Joe Biden, and 16% of Republicans. A Morning Consult poll conducted on Friday found 54 registered voters either, quote, strongly or, quote, somewhat approve the guilty verdict, and though 49% Trump should be sentenced to probation, over 44% who said he should be given a prison sentence, 68% of respondents said he should be fined. Roughly 49% of independents in the polls say they believe Trump should drop out of the presidential race just one day after Trump was convicted in his criminal trial in New York. The survey also found 50% of likely Republican voters believe Trump should drop his campaign, while 8% of self-proclaimed Trump supporters in the survey said the same. A Reuters Ipsos poll conducted that just hours after Trump's guilty verdict was read also found 56% of Republican voters say the conviction does not change their role, while 35% say they were more inclined to vote for Trump after the verdict. Still, 10% of Republicans in the Reuters Ipsos poll, which surveyed over 2,500 U.S. adults, said they were less likely to vote for Trump in the wake of the conviction, while a quarter of independent voters said the same. 18% of independents said they were likely to vote for Trump after the conviction. Literally, there are actually people that still vote. They say they're going to vote for the felon. I've actually seen, like, you know how I saw a guy posted something on Twitter earlier and said that how the left are saying that they would not vote for, like, they were saying about George Floyd, I believe, who was killed in Minnesota back in 2020 by Derek Chauvin, and they're saying a felon, but yet they would vote for a felon who was fucking white. You know? But it's funny that now that I mentioned that about George Floyd, I'm sorry, I want to mention something that really has really bugged me. Besides his cronies are complaining, especially Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and especially that fucking cunt Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know what this bitch said? This is what she wrote on Twitter, and I quote: "Earlier, I had a meeting with Speaker Johnson. I told him Americans are fed up with do-nothing Republicans. We need to take action. Impeach Biden, pressure New York to drop its false charges against President Trump, and use the power of the purse. The clown show in D.C. has gone long enough, and it's time we start putting America first." Okay, what this bitch said right here about they want to pressure New York to drop the false charge against President Trump, you know that's called blackmail. You know that, lady? That is straight out blackmail. And you know it's funny that how they make excuses for Trump, and this is something that I want to get off my chest right now. Okay, let's go back in time, 2015. When Colin Kaepernick refused to get up for the U.S. anthem, he sat, but a United States Marine told him to take a knee, which was more respectful. But yet Trump and Republicans, the MAGAs, were against that. I saw videos on YouTube when they were taking a knee. All these people, most specifically like white, were all yelling obscenity, saying "get up" and all this stuff. And even Trump commented saying, "Get that son of a bitch off the field." And the MAGAs and the Republicans, especially like the right wing, were bitching that Colin Kaepernick took a knee. And yet somehow, when they convicted Trump, they did something that to me it was like that's like supposedly like Republicans are. They love the United States. They always hug the flag. There's even videos and pictures of Trump hugging the flag. It looks like if he's raping the flag. You know, that's just my personal opinion. But yet somehow they turned the flag upside down in protest because of what happened to Trump. Okay. If it's a minority who does that, you can just imagine if they would have convicted President Obama of the same charges, and then if the Democrats would have done it, oh my God, all hell would have broken loose. But since it's Trump and he's white, they say, "Oh, that's acceptable. Let's turn the flag upside down in protest." And everyone is doing it, especially like the right wing, like fucking, what's his name, that yellow fucking that yellow belly coward Michael Flynn on his Twitter page, he posted the flag upside down. Marjorie Taylor Greene did that. All of his cronies did that. But yet somehow that's acceptable. And if a Democrat would have done that, that would have been fucking unacceptable. It's just hypocrisy at its finest order, people. But yeah, and you know, it is what it is. But yet somehow, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they really want to overturn the verdict, the false charges. Why? Just because she said so? Give me a break. But yeah, that's how it is right now. So let's see what happens right now in a few months. We're just a few months away from the presidential election. And yeah. Oh yeah, and before I end this episode, I just want to say thank you. And also, if you find my YouTube page, click the like and subscribe button. Give it a thumbs up if you think my podcast is good. Please do that on my YouTube page. It's something you can see on my page there, on my Spotify podcasters and Spotify. You'll find the links there. And I just want to say thank you all for listening. And I don't think, like, I just like to say what I feel. I just like to comment on current events. And also, I just want to apologize. I haven't been recording because I've been busy with life. And also, like, right now I've been dealing with a personal matter. But luckily, my girl said this: when a door closes, another one opens. And that's what happened to me today with another job. And yeah, one closed and another one opened. So let's see what the future holds right now. So I just want to say thank you, and I want to say good night, and thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Have a great evening.